Uh-oh.
Does that mean I have to repeat everything again?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Maybe just mention what we're on right now.
Yep, so we've gone through the introductions. And so the first application that we are considering is the petition submitted by ZHS Trust for a special permit to operate an adult daycare on the property located at 3943 King Street, map 82, parcel 31, the Business West District, zoning district and groundwater overlay district area 3. And the continuation of the consideration from the petition submitted by ZHS Trust for the modification of site plan approval and a use variance to allow the operation of a senior living facility with proposed decrease of 22 dwelling units, proposed increase of 50 parking spaces, and associated modifications on the property located at 38 King Street, map 82, parcel 20, and 39-43 King Street, map 82, parcel 31, in the Business West zoning district and groundwater protection overlay district area 3. So both these applications are continuations from a case that was opened in the month of December. So this is a public meeting, and there is the availability for public comment. So we did receive a letter from the applicant dated January 20th of 2025 with his request to withdraw the application without prejudice. So Brett's still on. All right. So does anyone have any comments?
No, just Mr. Chair.
Yep.
You're happy that we have a quorum today, right?
Yes.
With
Yep.
the 4 of us here. Right?
Yep.
Or do they have to be elevated?
Oh, yeah. So just for this meeting, I'll also note that Jack Carney and Jeff Grabowski, who are the two alternates for the zoning board of appeals for these first 2 cases and for the next case, will be voting members for today. Okay. So this is still a public meeting. If anyone in the audience does have public comment related to the first 2 applications for 3943 King Street, if you can just please raise your hand or press *9 if you are on Zoom. All right, I don't see anyone. Does anyone have any other comments for today on this application? No. So I think what's before us today is either, someone wants to make a motion to allow the applicant from the first 2 cases to withdraw without prejudice. That's the motion we'll be voting on.
So move.
Okay.
Second.
So Jack moved the motion, and it was seconded by Jacob Jones. So we're basically essentially voting on whether or not to allow the applicant to withdraw without prejudice. All right, all those in favor? Aye. All right. There's a unanimous vote, 4-0. Okay. No, I haven't. One sec. Yeah. He is having an issue logging in. That's cool. So next up on the agenda is the consideration of the petition submitted by Rajesh Ugalari and Pravati, Mendadupo, for a dimensional variance for the placement of an accessory structure / gazebo within the side yard setbacks on the property located at 2 Jacob Cobb Lane, map 82, parcel 26 in the residential C zoning district. Okay, if you want to just give us like 2 minutes to see if Brad can log in. It says he is watching the.
Be watching it
On YouTube, yeah.
on
I think we can probably start, and if he says he's watching it online, so if you want to start with, you know, kind of just give us an overview as to why you're here and what it is that you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, actually, like, it's not the intention to go against the town law. This is the first time homeowner. We didn't realize actually, like, when we just gone through all the booklet, basically, it's the 200 square feet for not the permit, but we mistakenly got this one. And then we realized, like, we can keep like the 5 feet away, but we missed that the 120 square feet is the area that I can keep 5 feet away from the line. But this is slightly like 20 square feet extra compared to the 120 square feet. So that's the case. But this property, my home basically, it's a corner lot and it covered by the 2 roads, and a lot of area they provided at the front side of the home, but the back side of the home, I have exactly like the 25 feet from my foundation to the property line. And they along with the side area, but it's like a highly visible, probably like 8 or 9 homes in that area can visibly see it. So just to enjoy a little privacy, I think this is the one spot that I find backside of my home. But I try to protect the neighbor's interest by extending the fence to all the way. And I mean, if I go with the bylaw, basically it's a 120 square feet allowed. So the gazebo without vegetation, I installed the 144 square feet, which is like 20 square feet extra. Not covering any of their visibility, but at the same time, it's not going to change any kind of the view or the surroundings area, and at the same time, I try to protect my neighbors' interest for their privacy and everything, and making sure it's not adversely impacting any of the surroundings.
Okay,
And the map and shows everything, like I have like a lot of the side area, but like 30 to 40% of the area is the forest with lots of trees and everything. So like whatever the area I have at the back side of the home, I have the probably like a little extra area on the side of the home, but it's like very highly visible to all the roads and everything, not giving any the privacy option. So that's the only concern I have. So that's why I'm humbly requesting the members to consider the situation.
okay. So before we proceed, Brad, I just want to confirm you can hear us and see us?
Yes. Apologies for the delay.
All good. All right, so I think with regards to this case, you know, I sort of, before I had Bob jump in, you know, kind of view this as 2 separate pieces here. So first and foremost, right, you have a structure that's approximately 144 square feet, which is above, you know, the 120 square feet of, you know, anything that's less than that doesn't really need sort of any sort of like structure, right? So the fact that it is a 144 square foot structure, but I mean, if a variance is granted, right, what is the requirement from the applicant in this case that you would require from the building department?
Well,
It's essentially like a building plan, as-built
it's
plan.
a building plan, because it's a structure over 120 square feet, I do need a building permit for it.
Right.
But I'm not really worried about, but in terms of the location, you would have to be granting a certain amount of relief to put this structure so close to the property line. The only way to really determine what that relief is that the applicants adhere to the decision from the ZBA.
Right.
Is to have it set up and done by basically a certified as-built plot plan by a registered, engineer.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know what they charge, it's a couple of $1,000. But if the, variance is awarded, that's the only way that the town knows officially that setback and that, relief has been, accurately used.
Okay, so the variance is really the first step in this case, right? And then they still would need to, even if they got the variance, you know, have to go to the building department
Mhm.
and file all the appropriate paperwork.
That's right.
Okay. So that's kind of, you know, I think that's sort of what's at stake for you guys. And I just want to make sure that you're well aware of that even if a variance is granted or denied, or if it's denied, you have to take it down. But if it is granted, you still need to go and file you know, all the paperwork with Bob. So just to make sure that you guys are aware of that. So I think the second part, and I think the part that what's in front of us today is sort of, so if it was under 120 square feet, right, you'd be allowed up to 5 feet to the plot line, right? Since it's more than that, you have to be 15 feet. Is that right?
15 feet, yes.
15 feet, right? So you're looking for essentially 10 feet of relief, right? The fact that we don't have an actual, you know, certified plot plan, right? And giving the 10 feet is sort of a guess from us. So as long as you are willing to sort of take the risk of, you know, if it's 11 feet of relief or whatever, you would have to come back in front of the board. So just so to make sure you're aware of that. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant at this time?
Mr. Chair,
Sure, Jack.
there's a white fence along that side of the property. Who owns the fence? And who do you name?
Our fence,
That's your fence?
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And on that line, based on the drawings and some measurements that I saw in the drawings, it looked to me like the fence, at least where the gazebo is about roughly a foot in from the property line on the other side, right?
Yeah, so my property line is the other side of the fence, like the foot from the,
Not exactly a foot, but
like less
around.
than, yeah. And it's going very cross, and one side it's like 8 inches in the minimum, and by the going the other side probably like a couple of foot.
If I may, just for the new members of the board who are kind of new to the town, every town has different regulations when it comes to fencing. Northborough is very, very lax on the fencing requirements. Anything under 7 feet does not require a permit, providing it doesn't create a blind spot. We do recommend that you mount the fence on your side of the property line so that if you had to maintain both sides of the fence, you can do it while still being on your property. So we usually say give it a foot, maybe a foot and a half. It's not something that the building and zoning department goes out and looks at. Okay, no permits required, no inspections done, okay, unless there's like I said, an obvious visual issue, creating a traffic issue, or if it's on 7 feet. So just to give you a background on the fencing in town.
No, I appreciate that, and just kind of following on, I know the answer, but Bob, based on what you're saying, the setback still is from the property line, regardless if they put the fence within.
It's the property line that is set forth in the registry of deeds, regardless of where any fence or any other structure is.
Could you talk a little bit about it looks like you did some landscaping in conjunction with the gazebo. Can you talk a little bit about all that was done?
Yeah, it's the pavers you're talking about, yes, it's the back side of the home, we did the pavers and then we installed the ducting wall.
Okay, and that was for the specific purpose of the gazebo?
First means,
like you had that landscaping done.
yeah, we wanna just use for the summer for like 3-4 months actually, just to sit outside and play with the kids and.
Okay.
Are there any other questions from the board at this time?
I might have some later, but I'm good.
Okay, all right, so, I mean, this is a public hearing, so if you are in person or on, Zoom, if you could raise your hand and Before I start speaking, just please state your name and your address, so that we have, the appropriate information from the, for minutes and stuff like that. So, I don't know. Did you guys want to talk tonight or?
Not yet.
Huh?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, okay. So if there's anyone on Zoom, that would like to speak, if you could please raise your hand. Jeff, if you want to confirm, oh, so we have one. All right, so Christine and John, if you could just unmute, and if you could just please state your name and address, for the record. And then just,
Can you hear us?
yes, we can hear you.
Okay, very good. Christina John, Charity, 38 Samuel Gamwell. We have a property abutting Rajesh and Paraba. Their patio and their fenced in area is lovely. They did a really nice job with it. They have 2 small children. It makes sense that they would fence in the space just because, you know, little kids riding little bikes and trikes and whatnot. It's a nice place for them to have a safe space for their kids to play. We do live on, you know, right near Thaddeus Mason, which is a giant hill going down. So
Big cut.
yeah, I think it's a great idea that they did it. Their space is very tactfully done. They have beautiful lighting. I think they put a lot of thought into it. I think it's too bad that the gazebo is just a little bit too large for our parameters here in Northborough, but we have zero problem with it. We think it's really well done. And we have zero problem.
Okay, thank you. If you could just please confirm your address again. Sorry, I didn't catch the number.
That's okay. 38 Samuel Gamwell.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep.
All right. So David Marcus, yeah, you had your hand raised. If you could just please state your name and your address.
Sure. Yeah. My name is David Marcus. I live at 18 Thaddeus Mason Road. We've known Rajesh and Prabha since they moved into the neighborhood, and we know their kids. They're all lovely people. Their area is just exactly what Christine said. It's really fantastic for them to give them this space behind their house, you know, to just have that private family time, you know, that we get some of that too on 18th Thaddeus too. You know, it's just nice to have, and it's you know, I'm in favor for what they are doing over there.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, David. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, Peter Carney, if you could just
Yep.
please state your name and your address.
Yep, Peter Carney. I'm at 22 Thaddeus Mason Road.
Okay.
Yeah, and just as David and Christine both said, you know, Rajesh probably did a really nice job on setting up some really nice usable space in their backyard. I think it definitely, you know, adds a lot of value to the whole neighborhood, you know, maintaining and upkeeping a great property, and you know, making use of the space that they have. Corner lots can be a little challenging, and you know, I think they've done a really nice job of creating a great space for the whole family to enjoy.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Peter.
Thanks.
So next up, Carol Jones. If you could just please state your name and your address.
Hi, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Carol.
Good. I'm at 9 Jacob Cobb Lane.
Okay.
I am one of the original owners that built a house in Chatfield Notch back in 1992. And I don't know if any of you were around back then, but at the time, that particular lot did not fit the actual plans that the builder had for our development. So their home had to be amended, meaning that the family room that all of us have, I mean, they were like cookie cutter houses, if you will. There were 6 plans. But for their particular home, they had to be amended because the lot was very narrow and long. And it also had to be adjusted with their neighbors and have the actual lot be changed to fit the house on it. And I applaud them for what they're doing because they not only are using all the available space, but they're doing it so, as what everyone else has said, I drive by their house every single time I leave my cul-de-sac. And we all know we can't control what our neighbors do, but in this sense, their children, never a problem, their yard, always well kept, and to be able to take what they've been given with the lot, 120 some odd feet, is nothing when you're looking at what I see when I drive by. So I just wanted to give a little perspective because it's not like they had a lot of options with the lot that they have. So that was just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Carol, appreciate it.
Through the chair.
Yeah, Jack.
I know you originally had thought that you didn't need to get a permit for this, and that was your logic for putting it where it is. Did you consider putting it anywhere else in the yard?
No. So one of the requirement is actually to have like little privacy. So that is the only place actually I have like one side is the fence and one side the home. So if I can actually close the fence and everything, that just gives me the little privacy to the family to play with the kids and just sit outside. The other side is basically, as I said, like it's like wide open on the other side and not a big forest area, but it won't serve the purpose. And then the other side, I have the play set and for the kids. And the one side of the home, basically, I have the tapper, so it's not the perfect fit to keep anything. So it's like a tapper area. I don't know how to explain that. But half of my property is basically the front side is everything is the land is the tapper.
Thank you.
All right, so I just want to make sure, so this is still a public hearing for anyone else that is logged in via the Zoom link. If you have any comments, I would suggest to please raise your hand at this point. Jeff, if you want to confirm that you don't see any other hands raised. Oh, there's one. There is one. All right,
Just in kind.
all right. So Rich Novich, if you could just please state your name and your address.
Sure, 34 Samuel Gamwell Road, Northborough.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
My pleasure. I just wanted to say that I'm in favor of the petition. I have no objection to the my neighbors putting up the structure that they want, and I'm just in favor of it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Wait, a question, Paul?
Yep. I want to make sure we don't have anyone else from the Zoom. All right.
So I'm Sandy Scott and I live at 5 Jacob Cobb Lane.
Okay.
I just want to say that what they've done with the yard is beautiful. It's subtle. And I don't think there's any other place they could have put it on the lot without it either taking down some beautiful old trees or basically being in the middle of the street. I mean, they would have been in the front yard practically. So what they've done is lovely and we're very supportive.
Okay,
I kind of have a question if I could.
sure.
Okay, so I totally understand that there were some violations of existing regulations, zoning regulations. And that was the first issue that was brought up, and we addressed that, and and Bob identified, the consequences. And that's for, the judge to decide how to handle that. But other than that, I do not understand any issues that exist. And I would love to have someone to explain to me, if there are any, what they are.
Well, I mean, I guess from what's in front of us today, right? So I can tell you, I mean, I guess why the applicant is here, Bob, I'll try to do my best.
Go ahead.
And then you can fill in. So obviously 120 square feet is sort of like the threshold for structures. Anything below that, you have up until 5 feet before the property line to build. If it's more than that, then it becomes an actual structure and you have to go through the process with the building department, specifically Bob. Then you also fall into sort of the setbacks that the zoning regulations spell out that basically every resident has to abide by, meaning, if you have a 15-foot setback, you have to build a structure that's 15 feet off the property line. This exists for every property in town. Of course, it's dependent on what zone you're in, how big the piece of property is, et cetera, right? So we're here today because this structure is over the 120 and is within sort of the side setback, right? So what's in front of us today is the decision of whether or not to grant the variance to allow them the relief so that the structure can stay.
But there's not even one issue, the variance.
That is the issue that's in front of us today. Yes.
Okay, cool, that's all.
Yeah, and so then I just wanted to make sure that my opening statement was basically the next step would be if the variance is granted, they still need to go through the process
Sure.
with Bob to file.
Totally reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You got it. Bob, did you have anything to add?
No, well, just again, for some background for some of our newer members and for everybody here. In Northborough, when you have a corner lot, you technically have two fronts, okay? And because you got two fronts, you don't have two rears, you have two sides, okay? And the side setbacks in Northborough are typically a lot more generous than the backyard setbacks. In this particular section of town, if you were to have a backyard setback, it's 25 feet, okay? Because you have two fronts, you have two sides, and that allows you a 15-foot minimum setback, okay? That's the magic number. If you have a structure, again, as was said earlier, if you've got a structure that's less than 120 square feet, it can go to 5 feet to the property line. If it's over 120 square feet, it has to be the 15 feet to the line. Okay, you build it to about 5.5 feet to the line. So what you're asking for is a variance after the fact of building it. Okay, and that's why you're here discussing your case with the ZBS.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
No, but it raises another one. Have any variances ever been granted that are of similar nature?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, so I'll give the board one last opportunity to ask questions or have comments or.
Yep, a couple just, do we know what year this house was built?
92.
92, okay. And I know that the gazebo says 12 by 12 and you provided some dimensions on here. Has anyone actually measured the area of the gazebo that you know of? Zoom chair.
You mean that the square?
The inches by inches.
Yeah, it's a less than 144 square feet area. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I ask is because on this dimension sheet, it looks to me like if as built it is like what it shows on the dimension sheet that was in the, I don't have it printed, but it was on the online. So there we go. If you measure from the outside of the posts, it's like 120 square feet, 126 square feet. if you measure from the inside of the post, like if you were imagining that there were walls there, and you were measuring the interior space, but the problem I'm having, maybe this is for our discussion, maybe not a question, but the reason I'm asking if any actual measurements have been done.
Whether you are measuring like inside or the outside,
Yes.
it's still the more than 120. I think it's if you measure inside,
It's
I
less.
think it's like a 126 square feet, like a slightly, like a little extra, like a 6 or 7 square feet extra.
Okay.
I tried that one, but irrespective in any case. It's
Okay.
more than
Well, thank you for being, forthcoming with us on this, because I was looking at the 125.6 inches that's on the material you submitted.
Yeah.
I just multiplied that by itself and divided it by 144, and I think I came up with like
So
116.
they promise like it's a 12 by 12, but it's like the inches, curtains and everything, they go like, but in reality, it's not the 144 square feet. It's like somewhere around like a 130 to 135 square feet or something.
Okay, so
But if you go inside, it's like a really less than 190 square feet. So it's like a 5 or 6 square feet if you are realistically seeing more than the threshold.
thanks. And just so it's clear why I'm asking the question, our bylaw, and just maybe for clarity for those who are here and listening, we have a bylaw, it's 706030 C3 little e, and it says in the RC district, which is his residential C, correct? For accessory structure commonly called storage sheds, greenhouses, cabanas, pool equipment sheds, gazebos, and similar uses, the side and rear setbacks shall be 5 feet, which I think is what the thought was, provided that the structure does not exceed 120 square feet in area and 1 story in height. Now, it doesn't exceed 1 story in height, right?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, so I'm asking these questions about the square footage because it's not actually that clear to me how you determine what's the area of a gazebo. I can see how you could determine the area of a storage shed, a greenhouse, a pool equipment shed.
The only thing I measure is just the pole to pole area, and then just go with the area, like how much.
Okay, well, thank you. I have a couple of questions, but more for our building inspector, so I don't know if.
I was just gonna ask Bob, do you measure the square footage based on like the roof line? Or is it the actual where the posts are?
Where the posts are, where they reach the ground on the exterior points.
Okay, yeah, so that looked like it was over 120 to me.
Okay.
Yeah, Jake. Then the other question I have, which is maybe for Bob to just to help us as we think about our decision, I'm also a little bit concerned. I know it's not been asked in the application, but I also don't want to have the applicant to have to go through this again if we can avoid it. I'm also looking at the bylaw that says no accessory structure shall be erected in any required front, side, or rear yard or within 10 feet of any principal building, except by special permit from the ZBA. And I don't know if there's been a measurement from here to the building, and if we're in 10 feet of that building. I'm just saying I don't want to have to hear a case again about addressing that if it's an issue we need to address. Does that make sense?
There is a 10-foot minimum requirement between structures on a lot. Excuse me. This board has granted variances before the fact in that particular case. One of the things that if the board were to grant the variance tonight, one of the conditions is that the applicant is going to need to submit a as-built plot plan of the structure, and that as-built plot plan will also show the location of the property lines, the fences, all buildings on the lot, all structures on the lot, and the distances to the required setback lot lines. So that will be also proven, if you will, on the as-built. When I went there and saw the field conditions, I did feel comfortable that there was at least 10 feet between the house and the structure.
Okay. Thank you for that. Because that was I just didn't want it to be something where we did or didn't address one side of it, and then maybe there's a complaint about the other side of it that we might knock out at the same time.
Yeah, and I think I measured those things also, from foundation to the pole. I think it's closely like a 9 feet, and I don't think it will be that 10 feet.
So you might need some relief on that side.
Yes.
Would you like us to consider that?
Yes.
Okay. That's all.
Is that
Questions I have.
Doesn't show.
There's a rough
This is-
drawing that's not that clean.
this
The
is
mortgage
the
inspection plan has 26.5 feet from the house to the lot line.
So 12 of it is the gazebo. It's only 14 and a half, which couldn't be 5 and 10. It would have to be less than 10. That's what I was thinking. I'm not trying to cause more problems. I'm just trying to.
No, I got you.
As shown, so this is the assessors. It's not very accurate,
Yeah, no, it's not.
so you see that there's hints of that.
It's close.
There
But
is
is
a,
it,
there
is it
is
10
a,
feet from the deck?
there is a
Or is it
3
10
foot
feet from
deck,
the building?
on
It's
back
10
side of the home.
10 feet from the building, so the deck would be included.
Well,
Yeah, the next one, I don't think we'll worry about it. And this was the drawing I was looking at. It said it was, I think, roughly 5. It looks like it's more than 5, probably, but less than 10. is what it seems like. I just don't want it to be an issue.
yeah,
If
so
we
I
try to
guess
address
if
something.
need be, we, could this be included as a condition that we are allowed relief for that as well? If it's within 10 feet.
You could do that.
Okay. So that's something.
That answers my question.
Yep, we can consider that as a condition.
I think anything else I have is just consideration. I don't have a question.
Cool. Thank you for bringing that up. It's a good catch. All right. Are there any other questions, from the board at this time? Are there any other public comments from people on Zoom or in person?
The only concern is the plot plan, right? So I have the option, the 2 options, right? Just removing the existing gazebo and replacing with the 120 square feet, the smaller one, then it wouldn't be any issue with anybody right here. Just having the slightly more, basically, all my effort is basically like that time that I spend, and the money I spend is like not used. It's like a 3 grand or something just to protect it. Actually, I run the extra mile, but the plot plans and everything, basically, I think if you, I'm not getting anything of those extra 10 square feet. All I am saving is the time and the money here. But if I go with the part time, basically, I wasted everybody's time here, and it's not beneficial for me and beneficial for anybody here. So would that be any chance that you can consider approving the variance without the plot plan?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it was, you said approve the variance without plot plan. Yeah, so I think like, this was back to sort of what we opened with, like, the fact that we don't have the plot plan. And I think Jacob is making a point here, like, we're basically trying to, if it does get approved, and we can kind of even take a straw poll if you guys want, to kind of give you at least direction. Like, if we say, hey, we'll grant you 10 feet of relief, and you realize you need an extra 2 feet, well, then what we just granted doesn't mean anything, right? Because according to Bob, he said you need an extra, 2 feet of relief. That's why like having the plot plan is important. So, I mean, I think there's 1 or 2 ways we can go about doing this.
Is he asking for relief, or is he asking for relief from Bob's requirements for a building permit?
I think he's asking, he does not want to do the plot plan.
Right, and we
So,
can't give that kind of relief.
Oh, yeah. I don't think.
Well, if I need to jump on, go ahead. If I'm understanding correctly, and I could be just totally off, it's not that this needs a building permit. I think, I mean, unless I'm wrong, current code is 200 square feet for a building
200
permit.
square feet for building, bro.
So, but I think the concern, if I am understanding our inspector, is that the inspector is asking for some assurance that what's there actually complies with whatever it is if we come up with a variance number, that the building inspector can be satisfied that what's there is within it and doesn't need any further enforcement action.
Well, if you were to grant the variance without the need for a certified as-built plan, this would be the first time in town's history relief has ever been granted without verifying that the relief was actually used correctly.
If I may, I mean, except just hypothetically, if I believed that the dimensions that are there are what we're hearing and are what according to these pictures and what the applicant's telling us, and that we're not hearing any contrary evidence, then in my opinion, we have verified it. That's just my opinion.
But we haven't. How do we know the lot lines where it is? You don't know that. For all we know, the lot line runs through the neighbor's driveway and it just wasn't put down correctly.
Those lot lines basically got from my neighbor's lot line.
Yep.
So we respect it, so we didn't dispute any of those.
Yep.
And when it comes to the lot lines, like there is like no dispute there. That's something that she got it and we just go by what she got.
Okay, I think what we can do, if it's okay with the board, is try to break it down and take it into separate parts here, right? So I think at a high level, right, we are looking at the decision before us is to whether or not to grant approximately 10 feet of relief on the side setback for the structure that currently exists. Then if we're moving towards an approval in that category, right, then it's whether or not the as-built plan or, would be a requirement. Which I kind of lean towards, I think we need a plan. So I think if you guys wanted to start discussing while keeping the case open for a public hearing, I would say my initial thought, I mean, I can go first if that's all right, is that I don't see an issue with granting the relief here. I think it is an odd shaped lot. It's a very narrow lot, doesn't give a lot of flexibility in terms of how far you can build stuff off. I also think that the ask to take it down or move it is a bit too much in terms of the cost to the applicant. And I also think from a public good perspective, we've had 6 people who are all neighbors and abutters. None of them have an issue with it. So in terms of granting the variance, I don't have an issue with that. So I don't know how anyone else feels, but you guys want to I just think there's the first question of granting, and then there's does it need an as-built plan and all that other stuff. Can we give grant relief from that perspective? Right. Okay.
I'm gonna need an as-built if you give a variance.
Okay.
That's the only way to verify that the measurements are accurate.
Okay. So from a straw poll perspective, I don't know if anyone wants to kind of just give a general thought. Yeah, Jeff.
Yeah, sure. I'm also in favor of granting the variance. Like Paul said, I was, the support for the applicant from the abutting neighbors is resounding. I think the impact of the gazebo on the neighbors has been minimized to the applicants due to their great efforts to put up a fence. And also any impact does seem to just be the view of the top portion, which I think is probably pretty minimal. And as a fellow corner lot owner, those lots can be tough. Yours is even tougher than mine. So the shape of the lot is definitely tricky.
I agree. I'm in favor. I think most of this lot, there's no place you can put anything because of the front and side setbacks. So you got the front off of Jacob Cobb Lane takes up a third of the property, if not more.
Sure.
And then you got the small play structure in the middle of the yard. If you move that over there, there's no place for those. Place for kids to play.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's.
Brad, do you have any? You've been a little quiet tonight.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that the neighbors and the abutters have chimed in and said that they don't have an issue. The fact it's a gazebo and it's not like a living apartment or in-law apartment or anything like that. I feel as though it has no issue on the quality of life for the direct abutter, and I'm in favor of granting this variance.
Okay.
Also,
yeah.
Also in favor. I can give more reasons, but if you're for straw poll.
Yeah.
Specifically, I think the shape of this lot, and using my first grade terminology, it's a hot dog shape with a house that's in it like a hot dog, where most of the towns, especially I just perused over RC zone district, but most of the towns, hot dog shaped lots have the house perpendicular to the hot dog with sort of the house separating the front and the back. And it's kind of, you got the clear privacy in the back and then you've got the front. Here we have the hot dog in the hot dog bun, and there isn't really anywhere on the sides of that for the ketchup and, condiments. I'm sorry for the crude way of talking about it. There's just not that much space in the hot dog. And we've heard about why it doesn't really work to put it in the end. And that made sense to me. So I do think that the unique shape of this lot, which does not apply to any of the other lots that I noticed in this district, makes it a pretty unique case that I do think meets the standard for variance. I'm also considering that it's really close to the 120. There's no way to shave off 6 feet of a gazebo to make it under the 120, but like that does go into my consideration. I would like us to address the dimension between it and the house as well. Even though it wasn't in the original application, it looks like about 5 feet probably of relief we need for that. 10 feet for the side yard setback and 5 feet from the house setback. That's what I'm.
Yeah, so I think then I think my next question is to the applicant, right? So the board has given, roughly a high level opinion on your application, right? I think from the side setback relief, right? And again, we're doing the best we can based off the information that's in your application. Without a, concrete as-built plan, it's hard for us to sort of, be very specific in terms of like how much relief we're granting, right? So I think like, we can, yeah, I mean, it's either we can continue the case and you can get an as-built plan at some point between now and say our next meeting. And then we can be very specific in what our approvals are, i.e. if you actually.
I have a proposal. Is there an option actually, building inspector could come and just take visibility, the measurement when we are doing it, it's not the case?
No, it's your job as the applicant to present to the board the information they need.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really like, and I don't know if anyone has any opinion on it, but I mean, we are sort of giving an educated guess on if we are to make a decision on the case tonight, and whether or not we can put a condition on it. Or the other thing is, if the applicant wants to, if you want a decision tonight, we can come up with a decision and we can try to back into some sort of relief. But if you haven't to do an as-built plan, have to get to specific measurements, that might be a better option, but I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that specifically, or if the applicant has any thoughts.
The only the concern I have is actually like, whatever the reason that I am coming here for the relief, basically, end of the day, I'm not meeting it. So that's what I'm saying is, if I go with the plot plans and all the permits and everything, not the permit, the plot plans and everything, I could actually just spend the same money just to replace the gazebo. So it just, I don't want to waste anybody's, your valuable time here. So that's the only concern, right?
Right.
I mean, if I just come up with like the 120 square feet, I can just keep it in the same. But I understand the Bob's concern as well. So that is the reason. Like, is there any other thing that you could suggest?
So this plot plan from 1992 shows the dimensions. So this doesn't include the deck. So it shows that you're 26.5 feet from the property line. So if you take, they're approximately 5 feet, 5.5 feet from the property line with that gazebo. So if you take 26.5, you subtract 5.5, then subtract 12 feet, the size of the, then it ends up being 9.5 feet.
Yep.
But we have no idea the size of the deck. So
That's not from the deck.
That's from that structure.
3 feet.
is the measurement from the deck or from the structure?
From the foundation.
So
Okay, so it's from this 26.5 feet.
Yeah.
So it seems as though that gazebo would be
I mean,
9.5
Yeah.
feet from the foundation.
I agree with you.
I just like, again, I think what's in front of us today is different than like the applicant versus Bob. Or not versus, but what the applicant needs to provide Bob, right?
Yeah,
Like,
Right.
we're looking at this saying, hey, it's an odd shaped lot. No one, neighbors, abutters don't really care, but no one has a problem granting you relief, right? But to sort of circumvent sort of what you owe Bob is sort of kind of outside of what we're doing here, right? We are looking at the zoning bylaws. We've already gone through sort of the details of it. The board basically agrees that we're gonna grant you the variance. The structure can stay, we can put in a condition if the house is, within 9.5 feet or 10 feet, so that there's no issue there, right? But in terms of like what you need to file with Bob is sort of outside of our, purview, because it's kind of,
Yeah.
that's, because it doesn't matter if you had built 100, if you had moved this, like if you move this to 15 feet and you don't need to come in front of us, you still need to file with Bob, right?
Yeah.
Is that correct? No? If he's not within 15 feet? Or
I mean,
If it's
if it is within,
If it's 120 square feet
I'm
or
saying,
bigger.
Yeah.
Okay, it technically does need a certified as-built.
right, yeah. So that is the, and so I don't.
the building plan is for the 200 square feet. But
Two ideas.
Yeah.
Before I give you my two ideas, I just want to comment, Mr. Chair, that I'm feeling the absurdity that the applicant's expressing about how it might cost him $3,000 for an engineer to deal with a gazebo that probably didn't even cost $3,000. And when we're complained about in our economic development forum about being called no borough and why all these regulations make it impossible for our residents to get by, and they come to us who are doing the best we can. And I know that our inspector is doing a wonderful job. In this case, he received a complaint, he investigated it, he's done everything appropriately, no complaints. Everything he's doing is very diligent, and it's a lot of work, and he's got plenty to do. But to then say that, yeah, we'll grant you the relief, you're fine where you are, but now you got to spend $3,000 to prove it. I don't accept that as the answer, Mr. Chair. My two ideas are that we say, however much difference he needs between the house and the gazebo and the gazebo and the property line, let's give them an allotment of variance feet that the applicant can apply however they need necessary, that they have it, whether it's on either side, and that variance applies to either side in the aggregate. Or secondly, my other idea, that we have the power to grant variances from dimensional requirements in our bylaw. One of the dimensional requirements we're talking about in the bylaw is 120 square foot gazebo. I believe we could say that we give him 24 square feet of variance on his gazebo, so that it fits within the 120, and therefore no further action is needed. I'm just trying to find a solution here that doesn't require this applicant to, in a case where everyone around agrees that this is a structure that no one's objecting to.
Yep.
That they're not required to pay $3,000 to comply with what we're all saying is okay. I mean, to me, it's the town's burden. If we grant a variance, it's the town's burden to prove he's not complying with his variance. That's my opinion. I'll shut up now.
Personally, I feel more comfortable with you granting the relief from the setback than relief from having to comply with zoning altogether. Because the zoning does say it's 120 square feet or greater. And what we advertised in the public hearing is that it was relief from the side setback. So that we didn't advertise that you were granting relief from having to comply with the law altogether.
Well, if the solution is that we continue it, republish the hearing, do whatever, so that we don't need to have a $3,000 site plan, that's my.
But then he has to pay $350 all over again to advertise. I don't think that would resolve the problem.
Your inspector's still looking for his as-built.
I mean. Well, I've said what I thought.
Can I ask, through the chair, this originally came to us, from a complaint, as I understand. Do we have any letters,
There was
for this meeting?
There was a
in favor
complaint that
of
came
against?
into me as a zoning enforcement officer. First thing I do when I receive a complaint is I go out and take a look at it and see if it's legitimate. I met with the complainant, found out it was legitimate. I came back, did my research, I wrote a letter of violation. I believe that can be effective. Okay, I believe, if I could be wrong.
It is online too.
It's online too.
Yeah.
And it talks about the options, move it to a smaller one, apply for variance for dimensional setback relief.
So I guess my question is, did we, for this hearing tonight, not your complaint, but for our hearing tonight, did we receive any letters in favor or against this petition? Okay.
Against, in favor,
In favor, well, in letters. Documentation.
Other than my mother, I highlight what is that.
And we haven't heard anything from 29 Thaddeus Mason.
is that who the complaint was filed from?
I don't know where the complaint came from.
Okay.
We have it?
I don't know if we're privy to that kind of information.
Actually, you are, it's all public record. I may have not included it. I usually include it in the complaint, in the attachment.
So how much it has built cost?
Honestly, don't know. It wouldn't be an engineer, it would be a land surveyor. So, if somebody's done a survey of their house lot, we guess it'd be somewhere in the realm of $1,500. But that's a guess.
So as I'm just saying, we've heard a lot of dialogue in favor of this petition. There was somebody who was not in favor of this.
Sure, yeah, right.
And we don't know where that person, where their thoughts lie.
Right, yeah.
And so to grant a blanket relief, I'm not in favor. And I'm a little concerned because we've heard from around there, but not from the direct neighbor.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. And so
I mean,
I'd be opposed to a blanket relief in this case. Because somebody does have an issue with this, and that's why we're sitting here tonight.
I can't tell you without the paper in my hand, the person who was complaining was the direct butter where they shared backyards, if you will.
Right.
You know, so it wasn't somebody who was 3 or 4 houses down the
Right,
street.
so before we end up, having this appealed, because we're, bending the lot line, as you will.
Okay.
I'd like to see this.
Okay. Sorry, did you have a comment?
Sure, well, if I can, yeah. It just makes no sense to me that there's so many people in favor of this who have showed up to register their approval, yet they're burdened with one person who hasn't shown up and isn't willing to go on record. So I really think
They
that
did go on record.
They're
the ones who issued the initial complaint.
Yeah, they should be here to voice their opinion rather than just because they complained to the inspector, forcing the inspector to go out and do his job and then put a burden on them. That's just, I like the fact that you expressed no borough. I think it's time myself that we go to yes borough and find a way to solve this problem without a burden put upon by someone who's not even here.
Well, I think we're trying to find. I think, I'm sorry, through the chair. No. I think we're trying to find that solution.
Good.
That's what we've been working at. That's why we're sitting here for so long. as we're trying to work with this.
Also, somebody has an angle too.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess what I would say just very quickly is that, you know, I think I appreciate the board's ideas. I mean, I think we all agree that, you know, we are in favor of granting the relief, but like kind of what I said earlier, you know, we're looking at the zoning bylaws and the setbacks, right? The issue that the applicant has now is between the applicant and the building department. And that's something that, you know, it's kind of a little bit more complicated, unfortunately, right? But that's something that we're trying to resolve sort of on the fly here. So that's part of the discussion. So yeah, that's kind of what I'll say there. Did someone have their hand up?
It wasn't a minute ago.
Somebody did.
Yeah.
Back.
Christine and John.
So we got this notice in the mail as all the other neighbors that, you know, were in favor of them keeping the gazebo. Did the person that made the complaint get this same notice?
Yes.
So they could have shown up today.
Right.
And they chose not to.
Yep.
So when I go and appeal a speeding ticket and the cop doesn't show up and I get off for it, that works. So why are we waiting on this person?
So, yeah, so I guess what I would say is, you know, as the board has stated previously, you know, we are all in favor of granting the variance, right? Which is the structure that's over 120 square feet, that's too close to the property line, right? But once you grant the variance, which allows you to keep the structure there, right? Bob now requires you to have an as-built plan. And I think we're just trying to figure out different ways to sort of come up with a proper solution.
Yeah, no, but I also have a gazebo and similar to his, cost me about $1,200. So why would I spend $3,000 for a plot on a $1,200 gazebo? It doesn't sound like smart money. It makes no sense. I'm sorry. For a half a foot, possibly, it's insane.
That's good.
Okay.
Needs to be.
Thank you.
The other thing I'm concerned about is,
I'm not the
you
inspector.
didn't apply for a special permit for 10-foot review from the principal building.
Okay.
So how can we grant a permit for something he never applied for? Nor did we advertise.
In my opinion, it was implied by the application and the notice. That's my opinion. Someone could disagree with that. He's asked for it while he's here.
Yeah, but that's not the way it works. Like, you have to advertise the public hearing. You have to send it out to the abutters. You can't just spontaneously grant a special permit for something that was never requested.
I mean, I appreciate that. I'm fine with proceeding with a decision that doesn't address the house to the gazebo. The enforcement letter didn't address it. So there's no issue, potentially.
I mean, what you could do is he could move it back a foot, and then you could give him an extra foot of relief. So instead of granting him 10 feet, you can grant him 11 feet. And so if it turns out that it's 9.5 feet from the foundation, he can just move it over a foot. So then it'll be 4.5 feet from the property line. Or 4 feet from the
But
property
he still has to
line.
come up with the asphalt.
But that way he can address that problem. So you could, you know, try to address it in advance by giving him that extra foot of relief now.
Right.
And then you understand that when you do your as-built plan, it shows that you're not in conformance with that other dimension. You just have to move it over a foot and then you'll be fine.
Looks like we, Christine and John, you guys had your hand up?
It's just Christine. I have a question. So gazebos can either be put into the ground, like bolted to the ground, or they cannot be, and then they can be physically moved. Is there a difference in this variance when you're talking about something that is actually bolted to the ground versus something that is not. Because gazebos are not all bolted to the ground. They might be 300-400 pounds, but you can physically move them. If it's not bolted to the ground, do you have to go through all of this rigmarole? I'm just wondering as an owner of one myself.
Well, I'm just gonna spitball here and say that if you've got a 12 by 12 structure of any kind and it's not bolted to the ground in some way,
It flew out this afternoon.
it probably blew away today. Okay, so, you know, the other kind of absurdity is that, you know, this is a gazebo. How long is it gonna last? 5 years, 6 years, 7 years? It's a, by definition, it's a permanent structure, but it's not gonna be here permanently. Okay, you have to understand that when I see a foundation, it's some sort of an anchorage at some point. That's all it really is. Okay, you're not splitting hairs. It's something to hold it firmly to the ground. Could be a gut bill, could be a curlicue, could be a pet stick.
All right. So we all agree, variance, not an issue.
Correct. Yeah, I like Laurie's idea too.
Which was, sorry, what was your idea?
So instead of giving them 10 feet of relief, you give them 11 feet of relief. So
Okay.
then when he does his as-built plan, if it shows that he's too close to the house with the structure, he can just move the structure over a foot and then he'll be compliant. So
Okay.
he won't have to come back for a special permit.
Yeah, so if I may.
Yeah.
Our helpers here are super smart, and so when they give us ideas, I really try to pay attention. So I appreciate the point that was made about the other thing not being in the notice, and we don't want to run into any issues for you if someone takes a problem with that. This is for your protection. The point that our planner pointed out, and so I like the planner's other idea. Let's give them 11 feet of variance on the side yard setback. Is that what I fully support that. And if I can, Mr. Chair, one thing that I do acknowledge, you know, we're all trying to be reasonable, problem-solving folks. It bears noting as a comment that these things can all be addressed ahead of time when people come to the building office before the building goes in.
Right.
Which is, I understand, we learn and we do things better the next time, but if there's anything we all take away here, it's, you know, if you're in doubt, check with Bob. He's a really nice guy. And we can avoid having to be in this place and then spending all the money. Anyway, that's just a comment.
Okay.
We do try to do that on a proactive basis. We have zoning interpretation forms which are available online. You fill it out, you give us your name and address and what you'd like to do. And it usually takes me a couple of weeks to respond, but it tells you what you can do, what your pitfalls, what some of the boards and committees you may have to appear to if you want to do this particular project. One of the things is that, you know, you get a structure like what these people put in, you can buy it at Walmart. You know, and nowhere from the big box stores does it say, check with your local authorities first. It doesn't, you know, and then, you know, there's 5,000 homes in town. You know, we're not gonna reach everybody, and it's no fault of the homeowner, you know, but we do try, you know. One of the things about the as-built is that sending a staffer out to measure something puts the town at libel risk because we're not surveyors. And it talks about certified plot plans, and the only person who can do a certified plot plan is a registered surveyor. Okay, so those are the rules I have to live by. And as much as I agree with you, in many ways, sometimes it turns into no, bro. These are the rules I have to live by. I'm not allowed to bend those. You know, I can, like I said, I can work with applicants beginning of the fact and say, why don't you move it, you know. But when it gets to this point, I'm stuck. You know, and it's a very uncomfortable position for me, because I agree with you. A $500 gazebo and a $2,000 plot plan is ridiculous. But I don't get to make that call. That's what's been approved in the zoning bylaw at town meeting. You know, so it is uncomfortable.
So, Mr. Chair, yeah, my proposal would be that we approve the variance. We don't include that as a condition. If he needs to do it with the building inspector, they'll do it with the building inspector. If they get a decision that they want to appeal, they can appeal the decision, but it's out of our hands. We approve it with no conditions. That would be my suggestion. Approve the 11-foot.
It's not a condition.
Yeah, no, but yeah, so it's not construed as a condition, I don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, that's the thing.
I mean, it comply with all other laws, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like what this board is concerned with, I mean, we're gonna approve this variance, right? The next step,
It's all right.
it's out of our hands, right? Because, I mean, it sets a really bad precedent, right, for overstepping, like, what is, I mean, I don't even know if we can do that, to be honest, right? Like, we interpret zoning bylaws, we don't do what Bob's interpretation of. And again, to Jack's point earlier, like, the only reason why we're here is because someone said, this thing is too close to my property, right? We didn't go out there and say, hey, you built this gazebo. And Bob didn't go out there and say, hey, you built it too close. Someone filed a complaint with Bob, put their name on the record in public and said, hey, I need you to go and check this out. And that's why we are here, right? For no other reason. So, I mean.
Man, just in my limited time on the board, we've had a few hearings. I've never had 6 abutters come in and support their neighbor, 6 or however. So I just want to say that I'm a bit touched at the support that's come to this hearing. We usually get 1 or 0 abutters who care about what's going on. The fact that 6 people wanted to take time out of their evening and they're still sitting here, maybe watching other things on YouTube at the time. I'm kidding, but that they're here to support you. I'm touched by that, and I think that's the spirit of neighbors that's really positive. And I can't speak to the person who complained because I haven't heard from them. And so I don't cast any kind of judgment. I just don't know what the reason was. So I'm not going to speculate. But I just wanted to say that that's pretty impressive.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to reiterate what Jacob just said. I mean, the fact that a handful of neighbors / abutters have taken their time out to say that the fact that like this is not a big deal, they're in favor of it, I think goes a long way. I mean, and I know every case stands on its own, but I've never, off the top of my head, can think of a case that we've heard where the number of neighbors or abutters have come out in support of something like a gazebo, and saying, yeah, it's not a big deal, we're in favor of it. So I think that goes a long way.
Okay, thanks, Brad. All right, so I'm ready to move forward. I don't know if you have anything else to add to this conversation. You know, I mean, I hope you appreciate the fact that, you know, we have been trying to figure out a solution that benefits you. You know, I feel like we've been pretty open with our discussions, and trying to give you as much information as possible. You know, I think that as a board, we do try to work with applicants as best we can. You know, so I hope you do appreciate that aspect of it. So unless anyone else has any other comments, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, I move to close this meeting.
Second. Okay, so Jacob made a motion to close the public hearing. It was seconded by Jeff Lebowski. Okay, thank you very much. So we're just for,
we're gonna vote on this.
What's that?
Vote on the motion.
Oh, yeah, sorry. All those in favor?
What's the motion? To close the public hearing. I said meeting, I meant public hearing.
Yeah, so public hearing. Yeah, sorry. And then all those in favor? Aye. Brad?
Aye.
Aye, okay. So that was unanimous to close the public hearing. So the next step is for us to discuss in public, or to, not in public, to discuss the application, and then we will vote on the application. So appreciate your time for tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Yeah, you guys can stay if you want, but it's, so essentially what happened is we closed public hearing, so we can't take in any new information from the applicant, from abutters, from anyone else. But you guys can stay and listen to us. But okay, I think you kind of know.
Or you can watch your movie.
Thank you.
Call in the morning.
Okay, I mean, I guess for me, I mean, I don't think my position has changed. You know, I think that this is not a cheap lot. I think that there's no detrimental to the public good. I have no issues granting 11 feet of relief or whatever, 11 feet of relief, into the side setback. And, you know, doing, you know, essentially granting the variance. So, I mean, my position has not changed. I also do think, I think Jeff was pointed earlier, like, there's only so much we can do in terms of what the ZBA is and what Bob has to, and his requirements are. You know, they can hopefully come up with a creative solution, but ultimately, I feel like that's a little bit sort of out of our hands. So that's my position on it. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add.
I'll go. Yeah, my position is still in favor of granting the variance. I support the support granting 11 feet from the property line. I think all the elements and variance tests are met and satisfied. That's all I got.
Me too, and just the 11 feet meaning of granting relief of 11 feet, meaning it could be as close as 4 feet theoretically in the side lot line. We're all, okay, I'm seeing nods, so yeah, I'm agreeing with that. I've already said everything, I'm not going to say it again, so thanks everyone for listening.
Okay. Jack, I don't know if you have any change
I'm in favor.
Yeah.
We've talked about the topography. You know, gazebo is domestic use that's allowed in town. This is just a little bit larger, and that's why you see us today.
Yep. Brad, do you have anything to add?
No, nothing more than I just mentioned a couple minutes ago. But I agree with everything you guys are saying in that room.
Okay. So I think the only adjustment to the preliminary decision is basically to grant the variance to allow an encroachment of 11 feet into the 15-foot side yard setback for the installation of gazebo per section 7-06030, table 2, density dimensional regulations, table 2 for this application.
Mr. Chair, could I suggest that where our finding about the conditions or whatever, I can't remember what paragraph it is. I would like the decision to be clear about conditions owing to the shape, including the very narrow space of the uniquely narrow shape of the lot, combined with the positioning of the house within that lot, which was built before I think the applicable bylaw would have applied. So we can't say that's their fault. That's what I'm saying. You don't have to say that.
The hot dog, the relative.
The hot dog
The
issue.
beans on the side?
Yes.
Okay.
The finding of fact number 13 says the zoning board of appeals found that due to circumstances relating to the topography and shape of the lot, a literal interpretation of the zoning bylaw would involve a substantial hardship.
Could you just add a second sentence to that? The issues with the shape include its uniquely narrow space for the side yard. I just want
I don't have an issue with that.
I think whenever we can have more detail on that piece, any review in court, should there be one, heaven forbid.
Sure.
Appreciate us having more detail.
Can you repeat that? I just want to make sure I get it right. The issues with the shape of the lot
Include the narrow shape of the lot corresponding with the long side of the house, which is unique to this lot. So it's really super technical terms.
the long shape of the house.
I'm just trying to provide some extra details.
Which one's the bond?
What was the last couple of words?
Which is unique to this lot, which that part's probably in there somewhere. You probably already have the unique part, but, sorry to be redundant.
We can send out a preliminary draft.
Okay.
If anyone has any comments,
Nothing else.
they can adjust. I'm fine with that language.
I just know that the guidance we get is like more specific to be about those factors.
Can I say, the issues with the shape of the lot include the narrow and the long shape.
Yeah, there you go. Improve upon it is just.
We can wordsmith this tomorrow.
Of the house, which is unique to this lot.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, thanks. The hot dog.
All right. Any other comments? No. Is there a motion to approve the variance with LNP?
Yep, Mr. Chair, I move to approve the applicant's request for variance in the amount of 11 feet of variance for the side yard setback for the gazebo. You need to change that.
No. So Jacob made a motion to allow for 11 feet of encroachment into the 15-foot setback, side yard setback for the installation of the gazebo.
Second.
Brad seconded, Jacob made a motion, Brad seconded, all those in favor? Aye. We have a unanimous vote, and then Brad?
Aye.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, great, thank you very much.
Thanks to you.
Yeah, sorry for the,
Thanks for listening on
yeah, appreciate it.
So we should have that filed. Usually Paul comes in on Friday to sign, and then we put it up to the town clerk's office, and there's a 20-day appeal period. So once you get the decision, you record that at the registry of deeds. So you get the original at the end of the 20 days. Okay.
Cool, thank you. Thanks for coming in. Good luck. So next up is the consideration of the ZBA minutes from January 6, 2025. Does anyone have any comments, corrections, concerns? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as drafted. Second.
Jack made a motion to approve, seconded by Jeff. All those in favor? Aye. Brad?
Aye.
All right, so the minutes are approved. Consideration for the economic forum meeting minutes held with the planning and select boards.
Those held.
Oh, you didn't.
Michelle, do you have
Were those approved by planning board, I think?
Yeah, they were.
They were. Okay. Did anyone have any questions or comments with regards to those meeting minutes? Is there a motion to approve the joint meeting with the select board, planning board, zoning board on December 11th, 2024? So moved. Okay, so moved. Jeff made a motion, or I'm sorry, I made a motion. So moved. Is there a second? Ready?
Second.
Brad seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Brad?
Aye. Yep. Aye.
All right, so, our next meeting is, do we have any cases for February?
We do not, however, the public hearing, so normally you do a joint meeting with the planning board to discuss zoning.
Yep.
And unfortunately, we were very late coming up with a final version for the public hearing, for the second meeting. So my suggestion, so that date is February 18th. So maybe instead of meeting on the 25th, you would want to join the planning board for the public hearing on the 18th.
Anybody have little kids who have gone on vacation? I'm gonna be in Phoenix. I can do remote, but.
So on the 25th or the 18th?
So the planning board, public hearing will be on the 18th. So if they meet online exclusively. So if you don't have any feedback on the zoning, so I'm waiting to get some last minute changes from that. From Amy Crosby, she's the acting chair since her chair resigned. So once I have those, then I can send out to you the draft, so you can look them over. If you have comments and aren't able to make the February 18th hearing, then certainly you can send those comments in writing. And I'll share those with the planning board. Otherwise, happy to have you join on the 18th.
That works for me. I'm actually flying up to 19th, so I'll even be there.
18th is Tuesday, right?
It's Tuesday. Yeah.
I think that should work for me. But let's check this good. It's school vacation, so I gotta check. I'll do that check with the buses. So
If you have another announcement, I can just
sure.
continue talking. So we picked a date for the community forum for the Jefferson Street project, which is pretty much on Blake Street in a portion of Spear Street. So that's going to be at 6:30 p.m. on February 26th in the public library. Hope you can all come in. There will be a significant increase for construction. So really want to have good attendance to make sure that the design is something that people have to be with. Street Lake Street, Pocket Park, and a portion of Pier Street that goes to the War Memorial Park.
6:30.
No flyers.
So we had a CBA meeting on that. So they're going, we canceling that, or are we still waiting? I think in between now and
That's like
another week.
That
was very key. Okay, so February 18th. February 18th for the planning board meeting. No meeting because there's no cases on the 25th, and then the 26th at 6:30 is community. Reservations? No.
Community outreach meeting.
Yeah, there you go. Discussion of formal rules and regulations. So this was a good point brought up last meeting. It was Jack that brought it up. I'll just say I did do some Googling of other towns' websites. I think there's a couple of towns that do have like very spelled out rules. My personal opinion is we don't need to recreate the wheel here. There's a lot of Control C, Control V type of stuff that we can do. I'm happy for any suggestions. I will say, Lori and staff, I leave that up to you guys. Whatever your preferences are is probably where I would be in favor of. So if there's things that you want, and I can send you kind of what I've seen on other towns, but basically I think Brookline has like a spelled out like step-by-step process on their website, which is very detailed. Brookline, yeah. But if there are specific rules and stuff, I don't think we necessarily need to, don't want to discuss it tonight, but like if there are specific things you guys want to bring up for, say, the March meeting, all ears.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just because I was tasked to do something and I didn't want to not have done my task, I did something, but yeah, I agree, let's kind of kick this one, but Sudbury has a pretty nice, succinct 5-pager that, I'm not saying we copy paste the whole thing, but like, it's a good starting point. Shrewsbury's like 15 pages. To me, it gets a little bit bogged down. Some of these that I have seen repeat a lot of what's already in 40A or what's already in our bylaw. I don't think the purpose of this guidance is to repeat what's in our bylaw. It's to say like, what time do you need to get an application in, and maybe like, how is the hearing going to be conducted, just so that someone can have a little bit more preparation, and then whatever other things staff suggests. But anyway, I kind of like Sudbury's in general, the succinctness of it.
If you can send that along.
Yeah.
Because one of the things we also have is for special permits or variances with the ZBA, there's an application that goes out. It's like 11 pager, but it has the application, has a checklist of everything they need to provide, step by step. Kind of gives the background of how everything works out. You know, so it's basically, it's a one package fits all type thing. And it fits everything from an issue like we had tonight to something huge.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, that's the way it works. I mean, one size fits most. So if there's something in there that we can adapt and make life easier for everybody, that would be great. Because typically when an applicant comes before you, before they get to this point, they come to me with this basket full of papers.
Yeah.
That we have to try to make sense of and figure out, okay, we need this, you have to go get this. I have to go make 27 copies and bring them to Andy at the end of the day with a check.
Well, you know, and to me, I think our regulation should say, like, look, you need to come prepared, having reviewed the applicable law, to know if you need to ask us for a variance or if you need to ask us for a special permit, because it shouldn't be on Bob to have to figure that out.
So again, that's where my, you know, whether it's a complaint or whether it's a zoning interpretation form.
Yeah.
That's where that kind of gets settled out, you know? So I put a little homework on their behalf.
Yeah.
Because I mean, let's face it, it's complicated, you know, especially if you get somebody who's never done this before. Now you have a land use attorney, they kind of know the drill. But, you know, the interpretation kind of sets a roadmap, if you will, about what they're gonna need to do. You know, and if that's what they wanna do, and they're gonna need a special permit or a variance, I usually print out and give them that application package right away. And I review it with them, you know. Then they go do their homework, they come back, I review it. If everything is complete, I signed it off. Obviously he was missing a block plan tonight.
Yeah.
So, you know, that made things difficult for the board. That's why I typically insist on it, and just, it didn't materialize.
Yeah, and also when they do file the application, I look over, and I did tell them that they needed the plot plan. We had that sit down conversation, and of course, they wanted to try it without. And so, you know, I had given them some suggestions. Oftentimes I prepare the maps, I help them with the maps. So we try to hold their hand through the process as much as possible to make sure that they at least know what they're asking for.
And you raised a great point today that like got me thinking as we were all sitting here, even though I was arguing with you a little bit at the initial, because that's what I do. But you know, they've got to know that like it's not on us to fix their request, because of the public has to know what their request is. That's a fair point, you know. There may be some way to, anyway, but yeah, they need to know that there's a consequence in how they frame their petition, and they need to do a little bit of homework to figure that out. So anyway, I'm just saying I agree. But anyway, yeah, but Sudbury, I kind of like that as a starting point. So our planning board has extremely detailed ones. I'm like, that's way too much. And we actually already do, just so you know, we have a 40B guidelines. I found, didn't know we had them. Haven't seen one of those, so.
And as far as site plan review is concerned, a couple of years ago, we changed the zoning so that you guys are held to the same planning board rules and regs.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So I guess what I would suggest, if it's okay with you, Laura, is that if you guys see stuff at different towns or something that's interesting, you don't mind, or
Please send it to me.
we'll send it to you guys, and then you guys can.
Yeah.
I think as long as we're moving that boat in the right direction.
And then we can have a draft, and then we can kind of just go forward. All right. Does anyone else have any other things that they want to discuss? Susan's not here, so we won't know about community affairs, but I'm sure that there's a meeting somewhere. Okay.
Next week.
I don't have anything else. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Seconded by Jeff. All right, Brad, any other final comments?
Nope.
No,
No, Mr. Chair.
all those in favor to adjourn? Aye, Brad?
Aye.
Have a good one. See you, Brad. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night.